Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Denise. I'm also known as heywigsister on Instagram and Facebook. Today I'm here to talk with you about how you can afford the wig life. I am seeing so many questions and posts on social media about how expensive wigs can be. And in a time when we're all stretched so thin financially, as our budgets are not going as far as they used to, if you find yourself needing to purchase a wig due to hair loss reasons or other reasons, it can be unimaginable to you right now. How are you going to add this to your budget? So I'd like to talk with you about some strategies that I use and just start to help you think through how this might be possible even when you have much less money to go around. So if you want to talk about it, if you want to hear my thoughts on this and engage in this conversation, then stick around for the rest of the video. Okay, I have some notes because I really want to make sure I cover. I've been thinking about this now for about a week and jotting down thoughts as I have them. And so I want to make sure I don't miss anything. And I think this is a really, really important topic. So I am going to include in the description of this video a link to a blog post that will be up on my website that is a companion to this video. So a lot of the ideas that I'm going to share here, I will put in that blog post along with links to some resources and potentially some additional thoughts as they come to me, because I haven't written the blog post yet. So I'm going to write it after filming this video based on these notes, and I'm sure some other things will occur to me as well. So please go to that blog post to not only reinforce this conversation that we're having, but maybe to help you think through some other things. There might be some new information there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Let's just dive right into the list. And I tried to organize it in a flow that makes sense, but it's sort of just a bit of a random order. But as I think about this topic, and trust me, I understand, I have been there. I had, in the beginning, I struggled as well and wasn't so smart with my money and did end up charging wigs on a credit card. I do not recommend that. I really recommend not getting yourself into a hole when it comes to wigs, but instead putting together a strategy, being really thoughtful and intentional about how you're going to approach this so it's not an added stress to your life. So the first thing on my list, and I think it is, as you're thinking about wigs, okay, I'm going to purchase wigs, how am I going to do this? I think you should start with researching and deciding on styles that are going to wear the best and the longest. When we start our wig journey, we want the dream hair, especially if we've suffered from hair loss for any period of time. Now that you've discovered wigs, it's an opportunity for you to have the hair you always wanted. For some of us, that isn't really all that practical for daily wear. So my advice to you is to look into styles that are really going to help stand the test of time. Above shoulder length is the number one recommendation I have when it comes to this. This wig is just a bit too long, in my opinion, for one that may be the only one that you can afford and that you plan to wear every day. It's borderline. And the reason I say that, and this is human hair, so obviously it's not going to have the same issues as synthetic, but any wigs that rub on your clothing, the fibers that are constantly in contact with friction are going to wear faster than the rest of the wig. So you will find if you have wigs that rest on your clothing, on your shoulders, on your collars, on scarves, on things like that, those fibers are going to get tangled a lot more quickly, a lot more often, and they will start to fray somewhat. This is especially prominent in heat-friendly pieces, but it does impact regular synthetic as well. I understand for those of you who've always had long hair and you feel the most comfortable and the most you in long hair, this is one that's going to be very, very difficult. And trust me, I get it, but the purpose of this video is to give you tips that are going to help you be successful when you really don't even think you can afford one wig. So in that case, you are going to have to make some compromises. I mean, we usually do in life. Everything has some sort of a compromise component to it. But especially in this case, if you are going to be stuck with one wig, you're going to want to make it last as long as possible. And one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that it's short enough that it doesn't rest on your clothing. So that's my biggest tip to you, is start to wrap your head around styles that are going to set you up for success. The straighter the style, the more longevity I believe that you will have with it, because they're easier to rehab as they start to wear. If you have watched me for any period of time, you know my preference is curly, wavy and curly. I really don't wear straight styles very often. I just don't prefer them. But as wigs start to wear, those straight styles are going to be able to be handled with some steam. If they're heat friendly, you can take like a hot air brush or a curling iron or a straightener. If they're regular synthetic, you can take steam to them and you can smooth out any parts that need some help. If they're starting to fray, if they're starting to look frizzy. With curly and wavy wigs, when you take heat to them, you will alter the curl pattern. And unless you're really skilled, it's hard to get curl back in. And I am not really skilled and I struggle with that. So I have had great success with some curly wigs. My girl mono wigs last a really long time, but the curl pattern does change on them over time. So as a new wig wearer who hasn't developed a lot of skills when it comes to dealing with synthetic wigs, straight wigs are going to be the easiest for you to care for on a daily basis. So when you're on a very tight budget and you don't know if you can even afford one wig, I really recommend going with as short as you can wear it and as straight as you can wear it. Those are going to set you up for the most success. And of course you can do whatever you want, but the more you deviate from that, just know the challenges start to compound. In addition to that, I would say the less cap features that a wig has, again, the longer that it will likely last. And when I talk about cap features, I'm talking about lace fronts, monofilament parts and tops that look like scalp. This one's got a mono top. This one has a lace front. Those, especially a lace front, can tend to break down over time. They can fray, and often it's the cap features that can start to go before the wig fibers go if you take really good care of the wig. So I'm not saying don't get a lace front. I'm just trying to tell you, here are the things you're going to think about. So, you know, if you get a basic cap that's about chin length and straight, that wig is going to last you a lot longer in general. Accidents happen, things happen, but in general, than one that touches your clothing and that has curls and that has a lace front and some additional cap features. So just think about that as well. And this is just, again, I'm trying to set you up for the best success, and you can back into whatever it is that you're comfortable with. The next thing I want to say is align your expectations with reality. So wigs change over time. They just do. When a synthetic wig comes to us, they have a coating on them that makes them feel really soft and silky. It's a silicone coating, and it's one that's put on by the manufacturer. It is not something that we can duplicate easily in the real world, out in the wild. And so wigs will start to feel dry over time. And part of that is the fibers are, reacting to the environment, but part of it is that silicone coating is wearing off. If you can align your expectations with these changes that you'll see, you will be so much more successful in this, because you won't be as disappointed when you start to see those changes. I have videos that I show, and keep in mind, I have tons of videos in my library. I have a whole new wig wearers series that's 8 episodes long. If you're new to this and some of this, you're not familiar with some of what I'm talking about, please go watch those videos. You will learn so much from them, and they will expound on some of the things I'm just briefly touching on right now. And I have talked about wigs as they start to age. They start to feel bad before they start to look bad. And I show that in a video where I show a girl mono that I have against a new one, and my girl mono looks beautiful. I scrunch it up, I get the curls to look all great, but she feels awful. The good news is people aren't generally touching your wigs, so it's really only impacting you or maybe a spouse or something. But in general, setting your expectations around this will really, really help you. Knowing that a wig can look fabulous and feel dry as heck is going to help you not be so disappointed. And that is just part of the game, is that expectation setting, I think, is huge. And often I don't think we have reasonable expectations when we start, and it does lead to some maybe unnecessary heartache and sadness, disappointment, just because we didn't know what to expect. So that's sort of kind of around the pieces that you choose and how you deal with them. The next section here is really about what do you look for in making purchases. So I would say the more, and one more thing on that, the more open and flexible you are with the styles and the colors that you can wear, the more the rest of these suggestions I'm about to make will work for you. So what do I mean by that? If you can only wear a super dark brown with no highlights, and it can only be chin length, and it can only be straight. Like, there's no flexibility in the color and the style. You're gonna have a really hard time finding wigs on sale, on clearance, being sold on the secondary market that meet that, because you've now taken a supply that's this big and you've narrowed it to maybe this much, you know? And that's really, really difficult. And so that's, again, aligning yourself with reality. And I did that in the beginning. I was very, very narrow in what actually felt comfortable on me, but I was so turned on to the wig wearing journey, and I wanted to talk to people and help people with it so much that I forced myself to wear styles and colors I was not comfortable in. I went to work many times with knots in my stomach, feeling kind of sick to my stomach, because I was wearing a wig and a color and style that was something I'd never worn before, and I was super nervous. I didn't know what people were going to think, and I just made myself do it because I needed to in order to get to where I wanted to be. Likewise, if you're looking in a very tight budget and you're trying to figure out how you're going to make this work, the more flexible you are in what you can wear, the more options will be available to you. I know this is easier said than done, especially if you've not done this at all before. So you baby step into it. You start with where you can start, but make sure you set some goals for yourself that will open this up to you, that you force yourself to do some things that maybe are uncomfortable right now so that you will have more flexibility later. And kind of, we do this in a lot of areas in our life. If we want to lose weight, we've got to do things that make us uncomfortable. Exercise, work out, eat different food. You know, there's lots of areas in your life where you do these things to help you get to the kind of the end result that you're looking for. This is no different than that. So definitely the more flexible you can be. And then when it comes to purchasing, I recommend that you sign up in the beginning for the email lists for a lot of retailers. I do have a post on my website that lists a bunch of trustworthy retailers that I personally have purchased from and worked with and know that they're good, trustworthy. They're going to, you know, send you good stuff. They're going to work with you. They're going to have good customer service overall. And so you can go look at that post, but I would pick some of those and go sign up for their email newsletters, because they email out sales that may not be announced to the general public, or you find out about clearance sales before others find out, and that will give you the most inventory to consider. So I really recommend that. That way you can stay on top of the deals when they happen. Watch clearance. Most retailers have a clearance section. A few have a clearance site. So wigs.com has Wig Outlet. That is their clearance site. There was one other one too, and I'm blanking on it, but otherwise most of them have a clearance section. Wig Studio One, look for clearance. Name brand wigs, look for clearance or markdowns. And so that is something I highly recommend, and that's something you kind of have to stock. You have to constantly be looking at these because those inventory change all the time. They're typically open box returns that have been marked down, and sometimes they have sales on the clearance. So Wig Studio One will occasionally put out a 30% off all clearance or 20% off all clearance. Name brand wigs will do the same thing. Wigs.com will sometimes have an extra discount on certain colors. So they might have a whole bunch of one style on clearance, and these two colors have an extra 20% off. So watch that. That is no different than thrifting. If you are someone who likes to thrift, you like to go to the secondary market for clothing, the Goodwill, some of these other, resale places, you know that you've just got to be diligent and you've got to show up regularly to see what they have that's new. This is just like that, and you can find some amazing deals this way. I have gotten some very expensive wigs for 60 to 70% off retail because I happened to look at the right time. So I highly recommend that approach. I also recommend that you call a retailer. If you find a wig that you really like, call the retailer and ask if they have an additional discount they might be able to offer. Sometimes retailers will give you an additional discount on top of whatever the price is or sale price is if you call and ask. They don't advertise them. Sometimes that's just a customer loyalty tactic. Sometimes it's because the manufacturers are pretty specific about the price ranges that retailers can offer, and they don't allow retailers to sell a wig sell a wig or post publicly a price that is under that threshold, but they can offer that on a onesie twosie basis to someone directly. So I have not done this myself, but I have heard from many wig sisters that have called up a retailer and they've given them an additional 30% off just because they called. So that's another strategy you can try. I think you should familiarize yourself with the budget lines. That is another area where you can find some really good quality wigs for really budget-friendly prices. The Wig Company is one example. They have their own house brand. So the Wig Company is someone I've done reviews for in the past. I think they're a fantastic company. They sell some of the big name brands like Gabor and Estetica, but they have their own house line. And so they've got a much lower price point line of wigs that are just as good, in my opinion, as the big name brands that are sometimes 4 times the price. And they often have sales on those wigs. So you can get yourself a really, really awesome, high quality wig that's going to last you a long time for $70, $60. I've seen them as low as $50 or $40. And so really familiarize yourself with those budget friendly lines. So the Wig Company is one. Paula Young is another brand that tends to be a lower price point. I'm not super familiar with Paula Young. I've had a few of their wigs. So do your due diligence. There is a Facebook fan group for Paula Young. I highly recommend joining it if you're on Facebook. It's not run by Paula Young. You'll get tons of feedback on those wigs. Main Attraction is another budget-friendly brand that is the budget line for Henry Margaux, and they are a lot. So often you will find a dupe of a Henry Margaux wig in the Main Attraction area, and it'll be a fraction of the price. So that's another brand, and I've reviewed quite a few Main Attraction wigs and have been very impressed with them. And then there are brands that are typically marketed to women of color, to the African American kind of demographic, and some of them will work for us because they've got lighter lace. So one of the challenges you might have in looking at some of these wigs is that their lace is tinted a little bit darker because their target market has darker skin color. But they do carry some more transparent lace, and a couple of brands that I can think of are Bobbi Boss, Outre are two of the ones that I have some experience with. And there's a couple of websites that I've actually purchased from because I do want to explore this market a little bit and see if I can bring some more options to my channel and thus to you guys. But Ebony Line and Sam's Beauty are two that I know are reputable resources. I'll make sure to have those linked in the companion document on my website so that you can go and check that out, and maybe even a couple of samples of wigs if I can find some that are currently available that I'm familiar with. If you want to look into something other than retail, I highly recommend stocking the secondary market. I am a huge fan of the secondary market, and one of the only reasons I've been able to sustain my channel as long as I have and bring the variety that I have is because of the secondary market. What is a secondary market? Well, it's eBay, Poshmark, it's the Facebook resale group. So when people want to sell a wig that isn't working for them, there's a number of Facebook groups where you can do that. I mentioned earlier that I have a post on my website called Trustworthy Resources to Purchase Wigs, and I do have a whole section on the secondary market in that post where I link quite a few of those Facebook groups and some other options. So I recommend you go to that post if you're not familiar with the secondary market. And then along the same lines there, I recommend that you try and see if you can get a seller to reduce the price for you. On eBay, often sellers will post a wig and then they'll give the option to make an offer. I almost always do that if I see a wig that I want. And what's the worst that can happen? They can decline your offer or say no. I have gotten some amazing deals on wigs by offering less than the person was asking. I've done that on Facebook as well. You message the person and say, you know, would you take this, whatever it is you'd like to offer for the wig? Be reasonable, but I mean, seriously, why not? The worst that can happen is they'll say no. And if they say yes, now you've just gotten yourself a great deal. So I highly recommend the secondary market, and I've purchased a lot of wigs. I do talk about that a little bit in the blog post, some things you can do to protect yourself against a bad seller, and I do think it's a viable option. I also recommend, if you're on social media, on Facebook especially, post in search of posts, or otherwise known as ISO posts, in some of these groups. You can post that you're in search of a specific style, and if somebody happens to have that and they are willing to part with it, you might find yourself a deal that you otherwise would never have found. Some people just either they don't know how to go about selling, or they just don't want to go through the hassle. It is a bit of a hassle to list wigs for sale. You've got to take pictures, and then you have to try to figure out what price you want to price them at. If someone is just scrolling through some of these groups and they see that someone's looking for a wig that they happen to have sitting in a box that they never wear, what an easy way to potentially make a sale. So I recommend putting some ISO posts out there. See if you can snag yourself a great deal for a wig that you're looking for. And likewise, if you have a wig that you can't wear or don't wear, what about trying to do a trade? I have traded wigs with Wig Sisters many times. It is such a great way to get a new style and try a new style at a low risk. Because if you have a wig that you're not wearing and you're not selling right now, if you can trade it for another, you're out nothing, and you may have gained something. So I highly recommend looking at trades. You can either post a wig saying, I'm looking for a trade. You can get out there and say, I've got a whole bunch of wigs I don't wear. Does anybody else want to maybe connect over what we each have and see if there's anything we can trade? What a great opportunity to upcycle a little bit and get something new at a very low risk. Learn how to modify your wigs and work with them. This is a huge focus of my channel and why I do Tip Tuesday videos, so that I can help you be more comfortable working with your wigs. The more you can make a wig your own, the more flexibility you have in what you purchase. If you get comfortable cutting bangs into a wig, shortening a wig, taking steam to a wig to give it lift where maybe it didn't have enough lift, all of those things are going to help you if you make a purchase that isn't perfect for you, or help you take a wig that you already have and make it something that you can actually wear. So it is essential, if you are on a tight budget and you're struggling with the wig life and you're struggling to afford it, it's really essential that you start to learn how to manage and modify wigs. It will open up a lot to you, just that little bit. And then kind of the last thing is sort of a tough love thing, is take a hard look at your expenses. I think for the most of us, there are some things we can trim out of our budget to open up that to purchasing a wig. How many impulse buys do you make on a monthly basis for little things that seem insignificant, but they add up? How many lip glosses do you own? How many body sprays do you own, or little things where you're at the store and you see this little thing, a bath bomb or something, and you purchase it? How many candles do you own, and how many do you keep buying because of impulse purchases? How many new snack foods do you try? You know, especially at this time of year, all these keto snacks and low carb snacks and, you know, healthy quote unquote things that you see as you're browsing through the grocery store, and you put a few things in your cart and now they're sitting on the shelf. Did you really need to purchase that? If you start to look at some of the areas where you can trim, you might find some money in your budget to purchase a wig. Now, no, this doesn't work for everybody, and some people are barely putting food on the table. I understand that. I'm just really helping you open up your mind to some of the ways that we trick ourselves into thinking we can't afford something. And I think this is one, most of us, if we're truly honest and we look at our budget every month, we can find wiggle room just from eliminating some of those impulse buys for things we really didn't need. And you just have to ask yourself, do I want these little things that are going to sit in a drawer because I can't possibly use them all? Or do I want a wig? Which do I want more? And I think if you're really do that exercise diligently, you're probably going to find some money where you didn't think you had it. So that is kind of all I had on my list. Lots of different things to consider. Again, go to the companion post on my website where I have documented all of this, and just start picking away here and there at things that seem that they could work for you. I really do believe that most of us can figure out a way to do this. If you are suffering from hair loss and you are desperate to find a wig because you cannot go out in public anymore due to the level of hair loss that you're experiencing, I really think you can do it if you just take the emotion out of it for a minute and think about it logically and planfully, and just make a plan that I am going to do this, and start tackling one by one some of the suggestions here. If you have a suggestion that you think will help someone, something that you've done that worked for you, please leave it in the comments. Help your wig sisters out. This is a community, and we all have something to offer. And the comments sometimes have gold in them. There are a lot of people out there who have absolutely brilliant things to share. They're just not going to get on a video and share it. So that's where you can come in and help by leaving these in the comments. And if I see some really good ideas that I didn't think of, I'll make sure to add it to the blog post so that we've got a really good comprehensive list. If this was helpful to you, please like this video, subscribe to my channel for future videos, comment. All of that helps the YouTube algorithm so others can find my videos in a search. And share this video. If you're out there and you're in these groups and communities and you see people struggling, shoot them a link to this video or any of my other videos that you think could be helpful, because that's how we help others. We share the information and knowledge that we've gained through our own research. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and sticking around for this almost 30-minute long video. I really, really hope this helped. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm always happy to answer them. Take care. I'll talk to you guys soon.